They called him a fool, a man who walked away from millions, when success was just a signature away. But he said something that silenced everyone. What's the use of a mansion if your heart feels homeless? This is the story of Ethan Cole, a man who rejected wealth, power, and fame, and in doing so, found something far greater. A story about peace, about meaning, about finally coming home to yourself. Ethan was the golden boy of the tech world. At 28, he co-founded a healthcare AI startup that promised to change everything. Investors loved him, the media adored him, and the world waited for his billion-dollar IPO. He had it all: the penthouse, the car that opened with a fingerprint, and the calendar packed with important meetings. But behind that polished smile, something was breaking. Every morning, Ethan woke up to emails instead of sunlight. Every night, he stared at the skyline, wondering when he'd last felt anything real. Thousands of followers, not a single friend who truly knew him. Success had given him everything, except peace. One evening at an investor dinner, his business partner Ryan raised a glass. "Ethan, to the future billionaires of tomorrow." Everyone cheered. Ethan smiled, but it felt hollow. He looked into his glass and saw not success, but exhaustion staring back. That night, he whispered to himself, "I don't think I can do this anymore." He stood there on his balcony, 32 floors above the ground, watching tiny cars move below like ants. All his achievements, and still, he felt so small. The noise of the city couldn't drown the silence inside him. For the first time, he thought about walking away. The next morning, his mother called, just to talk. But Ethan was too busy. He stared at her name on the screen. Then, silenced the call. He didn't mean to ignore her, but he did. 2 days later, she was gone. He stood beside her grave, the wind whispering through the trees. It was the first time he'd been home in 3 years. Beside her bed was a small box, full of unopened letters, all from her. He opened one. "Ethan, I hope you find what you're chasing. But I hope more that you don't forget to stop and rest." He cried for the first time in years and realized he'd been chasing the wrong thing all along. He sat there till sunset, reading her words again and again. It wasn't money he wanted. It was peace. It wasn't fame he missed. It was love. That day, the man who built machines to heal others finally realized he needed healing himself. When he returned, Ryan was waiting. "The deal's ready," he said. "120 million. We just need your signature." Ethan looked at the papers, the life he thought he wanted, then quietly said, "I'm not signing." Ryan froze. "You're throwing away millions." Ethan smiled softly. "No, I'm letting it go." And just like that, he walked out. No plan, no company, just a man, finally breathing again. He didn't know what came next. He just knew he was free. Ethan left the city behind. He moved to a small coastal village, no deadlines, no noise. He woke up to waves, not alarms. He cooked, he read, he wrote. At first, the silence scared him. But then, he realized silence isn't empty. It's full of answers. He started journaling, writing things he hadn't said aloud in years. The things that hurt, the things that healed. He found joy in the simple. Making coffee, walking barefoot on the beach, smiling at strangers. He was finally learning how to live, not just exist. One evening, a fisherman named Omar invited him for dinner. Over grilled fish and laughter, Omar said, "You look like someone who's been running for a long time." "You can rest," now Ethan smiled, maybe for the first time in years. Soon he began teaching local children about computers, not to make money, but to help them dream. He didn't earn much, but he slept peacefully. For the first time in his life, he was proud, not of what he owned, but of what he gave. A year later, a journalist found him. The headline read, "The Man Who Rejected Millions." It went viral overnight. The world was fascinated by a man who chose peace over gold. Soon, the calls came again. New investors, bigger offers. He smiled and said softly, "Tell them I already signed a deal with peace." Today, Ethan runs a small non-profit, giving free education to children who can't afford it. He lives by the sea. He wakes to the sound of waves, not alarms. People often ask, "Do you ever regret walking away?" He smiles and says, "Regret? Number. I traded money for meaning, and that's the best deal I've ever made." Sometimes peace doesn't come from adding more to your life. It comes from letting go. If you ever feel lost in the race, remember Ethan's story and ask yourself, what if I stopped running?
Thanks for watching. Please like, share and subscribe our channel for more interesting stories.